This is my 2015 Yamaha FJ09. The clutch was misadjusted and it's starting to slip pretty bad now. And I was just going to throw some new pressure plates on, but 2017 onward, they came up with a slipper assist clutch. This is a clutch designed with a clutch boss and the pressure plate. If you get back pressure from the wheel driving the engine and it gets too much, it'll actually has ramps that will loosen the clutch, so allowing that to slip it a little bit, and that prevents you from locking up your rear wheel in a downshift. The ramps also go the other direction, where when you're applying the power, it forces the clutches together harder than just the springs would on their own, and consequently you get less slippage and you get lighter sprints, so the clutch lever effort is going to be much easier. You're going from 6 springs to 3, and they are going to be this, if it'll focus, this lighter weight spring right here. B90 16173. You need 3 of those. You need 3 of these little absorber pads. You need 3 of these bolts, since we're going to throw away our old springs and bolts. And you're going to need this rear pressure plate with holes for 3 springs in it. And we're going to heat the hell out of the bolt holding this all together, because that's held on with red Loctite. You do not want to just torque this off. You got to unstake it and you got to unbolt it here. So here is the part that really make the slipper clutch happen. This is the clutch boss and the other pressure plate on the front. And you can see it's got ramps going this way when it's twisted this way, and back the other way when it's going the other way. And that's what holds it together. So here's your part numbers. And you're going to need a tool like this to hold the clutch basket in place to get these parts off. Available on Amazon. And some red Loctite. And a heat gun or a blowtorch, preferably both. Then you got your pressure plate stack, which is right here. Okay, both of the old and the new clutch assembly packs are composed primarily of these 2 discs stacked 17 deep. There's 17 of these in total, next to one of these on the end. So this is a 16321 friction disc and a 16325 clutch plate. And you just stack these up all the way through. The big difference on the new one, there's a couple other differences. For instance, there's some different of these that have different thicknesses, and we're going to measure to make sure our total stack is in tolerance. But if it's out of tolerance, you can get these in a few different thicknesses. Now, the biggest difference between the slipper clutch pack and the traditional clutch pack is your first plate and your last 2 plate are going to be this thinner 16331 discs, friction discs. And you can see that the inner diameter of the ring is bigger, outer diameter is the same, so there's a little less friction material on this one. The new clutch, the slipper clutch, has a couple of spring, they call it a spring and a spring seat, but it looks just like a big washer that go on the very outside. They are right here. So 16384 and 16383. These are your first 2 plates that are going to be on there. So here's our entire stack from the outside of the bike to the inside. You get a 16384, this little disc. 16383, they call this a spring. Doesn't look like a spring to me. The thin 16331, and then a bunch of 16325s, 321, 325, 321,
325, 321, 25, 21, 25, 21, 25, 21,
25, back to the thin 31. And this last disc is slightly different. It's not a 25, it's a 16324. And it has sort of this dimpled texture to it. And I think the thickness is slightly different too. And your final 31. So here is our plate and friction disc stack. You can see the common plates, I believe the 321s that are common to both clutch packs, the older and the newer model, are indexed with this black mark here. The newer one that is specific to the slipper clutch have these, I don't know, I'm colorblind, I guess it's a purple mark. And you want to have these all lined up. This would be the inside of the bike, this would be the outside of the bike right here. You want to have these all lined up except for the last disc, the outermost disc, you want to have clocked 1 notch over. So here's our spec for stack height. It has to be between 42.7 and 43.5 millimeter, which is 1.68 to 1.71 inches. So let's take our calipers here, measure it, and we got 1.7. Let's see, I don't want to squeeze it too hard. 1.705 inches. So that is right on the outer edge of the spec, which is good because it'll give me a lot of clutch life. Also, when you're putting these on, you want these discs here, the metal plates, they're just stamped steel. And you can see they have a smooth finished edge with rounded edges. And the other side is just kind of more rough looking steel, if you can see the texture, and it's got a sharp edge. You want the sharp edge facing outward. The next step is we need to soak all these discs and plates in oil. I just did an oil change with this Shell Rotella T6 and it shifts way better with this stuff, so I recommend this. So we are just going to pour some of this in a tin, and this is the top, so to keep it in the same order when I'm installing, I'm going to flip this over. Put that in, and we'll just get a little. Step 1 is prying the tab off. Very weak metal to get the clutch cable off. There we go. Okay, so now we got the case off and we got the bolts out of the clutch boss off. So we're just going to pull that out. The last 2 plates are coming with it. It actually doesn't look as bad as I expected. I probably could have reused these plates. They're not too burnt up. I'll be curious to measure the whole stack height when I'm done to see how far off it was. All right, this little piece we're gonna reuse, but I'll just leave it there for now. I think I just try out all these plates. Ta-da! Okay, so we got all the friction discs off, we got the pressure plate off. So now, you gotta find one of your shittiest micro screwdrivers and get it in here and kind of unstake the nut. This will probably ruin the screwdriver, so now this is just the first part of the process because this is also held on with red Loctite. So we're gonna get this nut hot as hell and put a breaker bar on it in order to break this thing off. Now, some of the tutorials, they just say, I can't believe how much torque it took to get this off. I thought I was gonna break the shaft in the middle of my transmission here. Well, guess what? You may well do that. People who do that probably aren't gonna make videos about it or brag about it online. So, we're gonna do this the smart way and not break the shaft and save our transmission.
I think part of it is about cooking that red Loctite, but the other part is actually differential thermal expansion.
Also, you should be doing this with gloves.
That is really tight, man. That's like almost all my weight on it and a 2-foot lever. That's like 400 foot-pounds.
There we go.
Good. Okay. Everything was scorching hot, but we pulled this off and don't need that anymore. The old one, this washer is going to go back on. It was behind there. Then the pressure plate here.
That may be key.
There we go. That looks fine. And then these two washers went on. They're still kind of hot. And now we put the new bolt on with red Loctite. We got this piece on. Still kind of warm in there. Got a fresh brand new bolt. Do not reuse that old one. Goop it up with red Loctite. Oh my god, that's nasty. I should wear gloves. Oh, I need my clutch holder tool to torque this down again. Okay, so tightening this down, torquing it up, I found my crash bar is a good spot to rest this. Let's see how it goes. There we have it, 90 foot-pounds. The next step is to stake this bolt, now that it's at 90 foot-pounds. Okay, now to put everything back together. So the first two parts that go on is this washer and this spring. It's hard to see, but the spring is it's slightly concave, which is why it's a spring, not a washer. I am not sure which way it goes on, but I am pretty sure, 100%, that it goes on with the center part facing outward, the closer center part, the concave side going toward the bike, the convex side going toward the outside. And then we start stacking the springs. There's one of the small friction discs first. Oh yeah, I can see there's a little spring pressure there. And standard discs going all the way back. And now we go to the standard full thickness plate, friction disc. And I'm lining all the marks up right here on this. Okay, last couple of discs here. This is one of the thin ones. It's gonna go on like that. Okay, so the last plate and friction disc we put on here, and then we put the clutch actuator right in there. And let's see, we find the colored notch here, right there. And normally they would all go on this way, but we're gonna clock this by one rotation. So I'm gonna get the holes lined up here, and I'm gonna move this disc such that it is one notch off from all the rest. And then we're gonna put in these little dampers. Okay, next we put on this final pressure plate. Apparently from the factory, the springs perch on these little standoffs there. So we're gonna put it on this direction. Final torque on this is supposed to be 7.2 foot-pounds, which is not very tight. Okay, for our next step, we're going to put on the cover plate and hook up the shift linkage. So here's the clutch linkage lever, and the resting position is when the spring is technically right here. And you're resting against here, but it's easy when you're installing it just to leave the spring on that side of the tab and push this lever until it stops. And when this arrow and that dot are lined up, that means we're in the right position. Now, the way we're going to do this is we're going to put in our alignment pins here, and we are just going to the pull lever here is going to go in this hole, and we're just going to clock it. We're going to rotate this lever a little bit, one notch at a time, until the resting position is where we want it. Okay, I decided to use a new gasket. Here's your part number. Arrow dot. One more. Okay. Okay. Arrow, dot, got our spring retained. So now all we have to do is stick these bolts on and torque them down. When you check your alignment mark between this dot and this arrow, make sure you're holding the plate tight because it'll rotate a little. See how it rotates when you move it in and out? So make sure it's tight when you check the alignment. Also, don't forget, before you tighten all these bolts here, which I have started, make sure this is facing here, because if you tighten them all down and it's here, you're gonna have to undo it again, which I just had to do. Let's tighten all these. All right, final torque spec on this is 8.7 foot-pounds. Give them all double check here. The clutch is installed, we're all done. Arrow lines up with the dot. Got this right here, ready to pull. Oh wow, that is a lot less effort than before. Jesus, what a change. Okay, so normally we just put the clutch in here and we'll adjust it. You want it adjusted so when the clutch is let out, this is fully engaged against its stop, all the way over here with the spring. And you do that by making sure there's a little bit of play at the clutch lever. However, if you're doing this upgrade, you get an older bike. And the first couple years of these had this terribly designed cable housing right here where the crimp is right here in the middle of the curve. And what happens is your cable rubs against this joint here and it'll eventually wear out. So as long as we're doing this job, get this new cable and you can see that it's got a nice smooth curve to it and the crimp is down there where it's straight. So this will reduce effort and it's gonna make it less likely that you'll be left stranded and it'll make for some smoother shifting. Your part number is right here. 2PP26335-02. The 02 is the important part there. So what I'm going to attempt to do here, I think I'm going to do it off camera, is just tape this into the cable to this and pull with Gorilla Tape and just pull it through. And hopefully I'll be good to go after that. If not, I'm going to have to take the tank off. Here's the bike. After much investigation, I discovered that the only real point of friction is right there. You can see there's a little clip here. The secret to getting the cable on the other side of this bracket right here is you just loosen this radiator mount and then it'll rotate forward and you have just enough room to work with. Take off that radiator mount and you should be able to fish the cable through just fine.